Hi, folks. Larry Rolla here with my friend Joey. We're going to talk about Joey's story. I don't know. If we were in the street, I'd know how to describe him. But we're not in the street. We're going to be on TV. So I have to be careful. I can only tell you this. He's a Damon Runyon character. And if I ever wanted to be somebody to be in a foxhole with me, it'd be this guy. And he went from the streets, the mobbed up streets in Brooklyn, to the farmland in New Jersey. And the ride was unbelievable. The story is unbelievable. And he's going to tell you all about it. His name is Joe Alborano, and he's my friend. And take it away, Joe. Tell him where you were born, how you were raised.
All right. Basically, I was born in Brooklyn. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a firefighter, and kind of rough guy.
Your dad was a firefighter with Larry Mazza's dad, right?
Yeah. Well, we all knew each other. We lived in the same area, the same church, the same ball team. He was a coach of mine, and we all grew up in a rough area. Instead of idolizing Babe Ruth or Major League ball players, you idolized the neighborhood guy, and that's how it was. So it was a tough area. Anyone that manages to get out of there with freedom or their life, you did a pretty good job. But, getting back to my upbringing, I started out playing ice hockey as a 4 or 5-year-old. My dad took us skating. He was like a fanatical coach. And anything we did, we had to be the best at it. I'm suffering from that now because you just can't be the best at everything.
Larry Mazza said that your father was very, very tough on you guys.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I had to go home with him every night. Everyone loved him as a coach. The parents, he's a great coach. But, one guy I always said, my friend Robert Mbashiani, I says, hey, you think I could get a ride home from you and your dad tonight? This guy's going to give me a beating, because he'd be yelling, God damn it, you almost got thrown out at first base. You hit a line drive to left field, and you almost got thrown out at first base. I says, Dad, I'm playing on a 16-year-old team. I'm 14. It's 90-foot bases. I says, each step is like an eternity to me, and I was always petrified. I used to get hit by the ball on purpose, not to strike out, because if I did, I'd get a beating. I'm like, I'm not going to be the GOAT. I'm not going to be the GOAT today and strike out. So I'd just get right on the plate and take one in the arm off the head, and then I'd go to first base, and that was it. But
who was better, you or your brother, baseball?
Petey was probably just as good as anybody in the major leagues, and the luxury, when he was younger, he was little, and he always watched, and, he played on my team sometimes, but he always had other coaches, and, my dad would, torture him a little bit and help him and show him things. I don't want to take ability away from my dad. My dad was probably one of the best, coaches in the game. I mean, he could have coached a major league team and done well. He, helped batting, he did some batting coaching with Lee Mazzilli and a couple of major league ball players. A lot of them were pretty tight with him. And, one of his good friends was Joe Pepitone. I always would pal around with him at one of the garages on Avenue U in Brooklyn, at my friend's security place. He had a limo. But him and my dad were pretty tight for a while. And, but getting back to Petey, when you're a Brooklyn guy, these coaches down there, they don't really see us as people to them. They know we're from Brooklyn. We talk funny. We have a different attitude.
Yeah, but don't talent overpower
if
that?
they got 100,000 in you, they'll give you a shot. But sometimes you have a problem with the coach. And I went down there to see my brother. He was benched because he had a beef with the coach one day. And we were in Greenville, Carolina, me and my dad. So my dad goes, what are you going to do? I'm like, I went down. They were on the third base. I spoke to his coach. I says, hey, look, me and my dad are here to see my brother play ball. I says, we want to see him play. Well, he's on the bench. He had a problem, so he was benched. So I says, look, let the kid play so we could enjoy him play. And, whatever you got to do and put him back on his on his punishment or whatever it is. So sure enough, they let him play, and then he says, all right, he's back riding the bench on Sunday for a couple of more games. I said, all right, coach. The coach is one of the higher ups now in the Royals, but my brother was unbelievable as a ball player. But he, like my father, tortured me. You know, he called me names, tried to motivate me any which way he could.
Before you go on about you, just tell a little bit about your sister, Dina, who's my...
Oh, Dina got tortured too. My dad almost had her. She missed the Olympics by a tenth of a second to a coach at Villanova. Dina could run and outrun anybody. She used to go to the Madison Square Garden, and, you know, most of the track girls were of black, you know, descent. And, you know, basically they were great athletically. And here comes Dina, like the inside of an Oreo cookie or a cup of milk, and she'd beat him. And, you know, the kid was good, and, you know, but my dad pushed the shit out of her, and, you know, she used to play with us ice hockey. You know, when my dad was working as a fireman, we need a goalie. Dina put the goalie pads on. I was telling you the other day, taking slap shots at her. And, you know, she was having fights when we played other streets and having fights with people and all kinds of crazy shit.
Guys.
Yeah, so she was a tough kid, you know. But me too. I mean, I got a chip on my shoulder. I was bad as in early life because, you know, my dad was, you know, relentless. If the heat was on, it's like he had a blowtorch on you, and you never got relief. Even if you did good, like I hit a home run, I was 10. I hit a home run like 250 feet out of the Little League Park. He smacks me on the ass as I'm turning home. He goes, what are you laughing at? That was just a fly ball. Like nothing's ever good enough. I had to hit the ball through the lady's house 500 feet at 10 years old for him to say, give me a compliment. Well, when the horse came into the picture, you know, then I had a lot of confidence.
Don't jump to the horse because there's too much in between.
I don't want to rag on him, but if he was sitting, he'd be laughing right now because
he was a great guy.
Yeah.
I knew him well. He was a great guy, but a disciplined. He was just like Larry Mazza says. He was one of the best coaches around. Knew the game, but he was very, very strict and very, very tough, and so. I just want you to tell a little bit about, because your story to me is amazing, and very few stories to me are amazing, but yours is because of where you came from, what you've done, from a street brawler to a bouncer to a bodyguard to many other things in between, and then your trip from Brooklyn to New Jersey. But finish the Brooklyn stuff first.
All right. Well, that was the sports end of it with the ball. And my brother, you know, he should have got a shot. He did, but he did get injured. And, you know, I once saw him warming up with Kirk Gibson. Kirk Gibson was on the DL, and he was warming up with him. And, you know, Petey grew, and, you know, he used to play at Lincoln, and he used to put the ball over the roof, through the windows of the school. You know, he really turned out.
Did he quit or he?
No, he played for 10 years, but, you know, after a while, you know, he had children, and, you know, there's only, it's like boxing. Boxing's worse. If you're 10 years old, you got a shot at being a boxer if you start at 10. In baseball, when you hit like 25, you're already old, you know. And after a while, it's like, hey, you know, I got a shot. I played 4 games. I mean, you know, the kid should have got a shot. You know, it's a lot of mom and pop, or, you know, pop and son politics shit, that if you're a guy that's hanging out in this neighborhood and you know me, then, you know, you're going to take me under your wing.
So politics is even in baseball.
Politics runs rampant, and it even runs rampant in the horse business. And you know that as well.
Oh, I know that.
And, you know, you can't beat politics, because politics is run by money people, and money people, you know, you can't beat them. You know, and it's a shame. Sometimes talent, there's a lot of guys that are on the street that are better ball players than anyone playing today, that are going to remain on the street and never get found. Even talent too, and singing, you know, who you know, what you know. Yeah. You make it to the top quick, you know, and It's
All
unfair.
right, tell us about Joey at 15 or 16 or 17.
It was bad times of my life, 15 and 16, and I used to hang around, and I never wanted to stay in the house because I was always getting ragged on and abused. I still was in school. I did well. I went to Brooklyn Tech for 1 year. I played on the football team, and one morning I was going in Fort Greene Park at 4 o'clock because we practiced football before school. And, I got robbed on the train. I had a knife stuck to me, and they stole my Puma bag. And I, busted up these two kids really bad. And then the cops came to my house, and they're like, what's going on? What are you doing here? You put this guy and left him. I did. I says, the guy cut my arm with a knife. And he stole my Puma bag that my mother bought me. I says, what would you do? I was petrified. So that ended. I says, I'm not going to the school no more. So I went to Lincoln. Now I'm with all my friends. Now it's like a party. With all my friends. They're showing me, you could cut out of this guy. The teacher will let you come in just to take the midterm. If you pass, you're good. So, I got involved with that and fishing. I was big into fishing. I would go down to Sheepshead Bay. And this is where my career as a racing guy came in, where I found out gambling and horses and money and all kinds of shit. So I met a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Charlie. He had a boat, and he used to take people out fishing in Sheepshead Bay. So I told him about my idea. My friend Joe and I, we used to go to the Fulton Market. We were like 15. He had a van, no license, nothing. And we'd buy about maybe 1,200 pounds of fish from some of the friends that we knew at the Fulton Market. And we'd bring it back to my friend's boat. We'd pack it in ice. This was every Friday because we'd have to be at the Fulton Market at like 1 in the morning. And we'd bring it there, ice it all down. Then I'd go home, I'd take 2 showers and go to sleep for like 10 minutes and then go to school and fall asleep in every class and then go down to the bay and sell the fish. And by Sunday, I'd have like 3,000-4,000 in my pocket, profit.
Sell the fish as if you caught them in the ocean?
Yeah, that's what we did. But we were buying fish that was so fresh. If you went out and caught them yourself, they wouldn't even look as good as the ones we were buying.
So you went to Fulton Fish Market, bought fish that were already caught.
Yeah.
And then you put them on your boat
we put them on our boat and iced it up because we had the pier as a dock to sell because people would come down there to buy fish. Well, we would buy top-of-the-line fish and sell it, and we would rack up. We would kill it.
Okay.
I had so much money in my pocket that I used to take, the whiting, the little like spike type fish. They're like this big.
I don't know anything.
Well, they're skinny, so we used to throw them and feed the seagulls because I felt sorry for the seagulls. I used to take some injured ones home to my grandmother's house. She lived upstairs.
So that was the beginning of crossing the line of morality.
Well, yeah, and we got into trouble a couple of times over there, and we did some devious stuff, too, because I used to get my ass kicked from my father, so I didn't really like authority, and I tried to get as far away from authority as possible. But now, you have cops coming in, giving you tickets, shutting you down, you can't stay here. My friend's boat, people, ratting on us, and what are we doing? We're not selling drugs. We're not doing nothing wrong. We're here legitimate, and people got to bother you. But anyway, an incident occurred once, and basically shit happens. I ended up getting in a little trouble and, started to behave ourselves, so we had to tone it down. But every Sunday I'd be walking home because we didn't have a real car. My friend did, but his father didn't let him cruise around. He says, you could take it. Even my dad used to lend me his station wagon sometimes, and I'd load it up and, 3,000-4,000 every week. So I'd stop in the OTB on Sheepshead Bay Road, and, no one really knew me there. I was 15, 16, not supposed to even be in the place. So I started gambling. I fucking drop $1,000, say, But I did it because I like the animals. I was always wanting to ride horses and be around animals. And my father was a crab. He didn't really like animals, and we'd have to sneak animals in. And then eventually we would wear him down, where he just says, keep the animal, So that was it. So I made a name for myself at the OTB because I'd walk in there and there's these old timers, with $100 in their pocket. I got $4,000 in my pocket, and I'm betting. And they started calling me the kid, and I was there. And fast forward, I never made money. I always lost. But I remember one night my father found me with all this money. He thought I was dealing drugs. And, he started yelling at me, and, I was just a kid. So
You never did no drugs, never took no drugs?
I had my run-ins with some stupid shit that I did as a kid, which probably saved my ass. But, I did nothing more than any other kid did in the neighborhood, mostly drinking, though, But
they tell me that you were in some of them famous clubs in Brooklyn, that you were either a bouncer there or a bodyguard for somebody.
Yeah, I used to bounce in Turquoise, Pastels, all of those places, and it was cool, Even the Plaza Suite I was in a couple of times, but the places never always lasted. There was always a problem. If there was a problem outside, and the place would be open a month and shut for a month and then reopen again, and it's a clash, the certain clientele that comes in, they want to spend money and drink and have a good time. They don't want to be talked to like they're pieces of shit. And when you mix that clientele with average people, there's issues. And push leads to shove, certain guys that are in the street, you don't put your hands on those people. You know what I'm saying? You got to use diplomacy, and usually they yield to diplomacy and respect. For respect for the place and who ran the place and whatever. But, me personally, I just did my job. I worked at the door. I worked in the VIP lounge because I could get along with, a lot of people, celebrities, street guys, famous guys, And
what made you leave Brooklyn?
The trouble. I got in trouble like shit 40 fucking times. I got in trouble for fighting. Every week you're in a club, you got a problem, you throw a guy out, the guy punches you in the face, and then you go to work on him and you got a problem. But
40 times?
Close. In the mid-30s, close to 37 times maybe.
All for fighting?
Fighting, yeah. Some small shit, disorderly conducts, Whatever I did, I would just cop a plea, and that would be that, But, a lot of times I got in trouble, I really didn't even do anything, but it's a business.
I remember one time in Jersey, I don't know about in Brooklyn, but in Jersey, I had a problem in one of the clubs in Jersey. We were called the Molinari's, and got in a little fight with a guy, and the bartender, somebody called the cops, and it was me against 2 or 3 guys. And good thing they came when they came, because they were starting to get to me. And the cops came in, and I never saw this before. They had a thing called a come along. It was like a thing that you put in your hand, and it was a cuff. And then they twist it, and it locks right on your wrist, and then they drag you out. I never saw that before. But anyway, that was my fighting career ended a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And so you left Brooklyn, and then after an amazing story in Brooklyn, which we won't. I could tell you don't want to get too far into that, because first of all, he's writing a book. He's writing a book, and he's going to make a movie out of his life, because just like Larry Mazza's story, his story is just unbelievable. From a street guy to a wise guy to everything else in between, and then he goes
me, Larry. Not to interrupt, I had this thing in my head. I always had, my dad was a coach. A lot of the guys in the neighborhood were all competitive, either in the karate or ball or something, weightlifting. But everyone in our neighborhood was very competitive. And, I always was like the big brother. Most of the guys my age were either in trouble or got jammed up and weren't around anymore. So I used to hang out with a lot of the younger guys. So they always would come up to the club. They know they were young. And, I'd let them in, You know what I'm saying? And they were young, and I'd had to vouch for them. Hey, if these guys, you know, they fuck around in here, we're going to come see you about it, you know. So I always vouch for the kids, you know what I'm saying? And I loved all the younger guys in the neighborhood, you know, all good kids. But me personally, from working in these clubs, I knew all the guys, I knew everybody. You name it, I knew them. But I always had that fear of my dad. And, you know, still, you know, my dad would hit me with a bat. He hit me with a bat twice in his life with authority. You know what I'm saying? And he couldn't do anything else. One day, you know, look, I was into weightlifting, not bodybuilding, but powerlifting. Because when I worked, the stronger I was, the easier my job was. Because, you know, I never hit nobody. I would just grab them, put them in a bear hug, or grab them by the arm and walk them out like a gentleman. And just say, look, just go out. You know, no problems, and you come back next week. But if you decide that you want to get stupid and you know, get physical with me, you're going to get fucking crippled, because that's not what we do here. You just go out and you're good to go, you know. And you know, always something went wrong. But I tried to stay out of, you know, the crazy shit. You know, I was always like, hey, Joe, could you help us? I would always help my friends. You know, everyone's battles I used to fight when I was a kid in the high school. You know, oh, this guy, they robbed my girl's chain, and yeah, all right, let's go get it. We'd have a mob of people. By the time we got there, it was me and two other guys, and there's 20, 30 guys that we're up against. Stuff like that. So I just got sick of all of that shit. I got sick of the lifestyle. I got sick of knowing that, hey, I could just keep climbing up the ranks and, you know, doing what other people I know do and end up killed or in jail for life, and that's it, you know. And
That's what made you leave.
I says, I got my children now, and I got to get the fuck out of here, you know. And that was it. I moved out to Jersey. You know, I worked with a couple of good friends of mine. I went to Wall Street. I started doing things like that. You know, and, you know, before that I had a route business. I used to go to all the bad neighborhoods, and I got abused by the cops, and the cops went at it with me 10-on-1. You know, naturally I fought the cops, actually, and I did a year for that. And they were accusing me of dealing drugs. Naturally, I told the cop, I says, you know, I don't deal drugs. And they were abusing me. So I says, I know who does. He goes, who? I says, your mom. That was it.
God.
They fucking tortured me. But after a while, you could only take so much. They needle you and they try to make you do something. And to me, who needs that? If you antagonize a dog long enough, he's going to bite you, right? If you go to the zoo and you try to pet the lion, what's going to happen to you? Some fucking idiot, remember he was on the front page? He was in the cage with the lion. He jumped in there. And he was like playing with him, and the thing mauled him. So, you know, just people don't leave you alone in Brooklyn and New York, and, you know, it was time to move. So I bought that farm, and I got into, you know, horses. I stopped in Staten Island, and I did start over there for a year. And I bought a couple of riding horses, and I was right on the beach. And then I bought a racehorse, and that was it. The next year I had like 20 racehorses. The following year I had like 60. And one of them was autistic. He was in the mix.
How much you pay for autistic?
I paid $13 for him.
I did a podcast with Larry Mazza, and I talked about you, an autistic fella, and I made a mistake. I usually make 15, 20 mistakes every podcast.
Yeah, right.
And this time I made a mistake. I said, I think you paid a couple of $1,000 for him. I didn't know. I just guessed, because I know it was a little bit of money. But it was $13,000. And tell us about autistic fella.
Well, you know, I let a guy break the horse as a baby, and then I took him back. You know, I gave them an opportunity to go 50-50 with me. If they trained the horse, you know, we would go 50-50. They declined. They were friends of mine until he won the big race. Then they weren't friends of mine. Well, you know how everyone is. Oh, I touched your horse. I got to get a piece. Get the fuck out of here. Get a piece. Did you give me a piece of $250,000 in stake payments I made every year for him? Before he even raced once, I was out of pocket for big money. You know, and I didn't think I was a gambler, but now that I look back at that.
When did you know, at what point did you know that he was special? Who was training him? Steve Elliott?
Yeah, that was after. I had him at my farm, and I was jogging him every morning. And I didn't really know what I had, but, you know, I used to air him out a little bit, coming down the backside, you know, the wrong way of the track as jogging. And he would go so fast that he would scare himself. And I talked to a friend of mine, and I said, maybe you want to come and sit on this horse one day, take him for a ride. You know, because what the fuck do I know? I'm a fucking guy from Brooklyn. The only horses I ever saw had cops on top of them, and they were throwing us out of the fucking park. I had a cop on horseback chasing me up Kings Highway one day. I said that in the Meadowlands Pace winner's circle. I had the whole place laughing. But, you know, I'm losing my train of thought here.
When did Steve tell you he was something special?
Okay, here's what happened. I gave him to a friend of mine. He took him for a ride. He says, look, this horse has a lot of ability. Then I had a guy come over. He measured his overlap from his back foot to his front foot.
When he was walking.
And he said that this horse is definitely a sub-48 pacer.
Really?
Yeah. And I says, how the fuck do you know that? I says, you know, he was right, though. Because everything he told me was like primitive shit that I would never...
But that was interesting. I never ever heard of that.
Well, somehow when you have the overlap, it has something
I understand
to do with
that. The
mechanics.
stride is long, yeah.
Right, and when the back leg goes over the front leg by a certain amount of, you know, inches, in this case it was almost 2 feet, it means that he's got, you know, like reach and a good stride. And he's using his hind end. Like the horse had an ass this big. If I was sitting behind him, I'd have to look like this. I had a guy, you know, one day he was driving him, this kid, Chris Cicluna, the short kid, you know him.
Yeah, I know.
He actually was training my horse with Steve. He used to jog him in the morning, and then they would train him. But he used to look like right under him. You know what I'm saying? And, yeah, that horse, I knew something was funny about him in a good way. So then the next thing you know, I give him to somebody. This tall guy, Dwayne. You know Dwayne? He's about 7 feet tall. He was in Delaware with another guy, Lester. He was racing at Delaware. I think the kid was banned for a while out of the game. But, you know, he was just training my horse down at a farm. And there was other colts his age that were pretty decent and showed promise. So I said, I take him there. You know, so I gave him the horse. He took him there. And my days of having a stroke were over. The guy, Ronnie, that worked at my farm, he was drinking a case of beer. When I brought Autistic there, he says, I got to drink 2 cases of beer now. He goes, get him the fuck out of here, because he thought he was going to hurt him, and I would have been upset, you know. So, you know, months go by, you know, the horse is training down. He's in 20. And then he goes, why don't you come down and look at this horse? This horse is a monster.
As a 2-year-old.
Yeah, so I says, fucking guy's telling me he's a monster. People fuck me big time in this business, selling me blood shots to give the horse vitamin shots for $250 when a vet, you know, it's only $25 worth of medicine, you know, iron and other stuff. Because, you know, you burn them out, you got to replace what you take out of them, electrolytes, this, that. I mean, I was getting clipped for thousands of dollars a month from people.
What you should have done at that point was bring a little Brooklyn to Jersey. And
I did do
and
that.
when they come down the shed row, a little
yeah,
Brooklyn.
no, I got a little crazy with some guys, you know, but I was trying like to get away from that kind of mentality. But, you know, one night I heard someone called me up and says, hey, they're using your horse in the number, but it's not for the win. So I had a certain guy that I had to have a little talk with on the racetrack that day. And then he won 5 in a row that night. You know, but, you know, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, people are humans. You hear shit. People say shit. You know how people throw stones and then they watch everyone fight. Like my brother, notorious. My sister couldn't find a boyfriend until she was like 30 because I was her brother. Oh, your friend, she was hanging out on Avenue X. Oh, no, don't go near that girl. You'll end up getting crippled if you fucking give her a problem, you know. Petey, too, I bought, you know, I had the money from the fish that time, and I bought Petey some clothes. We bought all new clothes, and We went out to this club, the Bay Club. By 1 o'clock in the morning, our clothes were ripped. We had a brawl with like 10 guys. Petey started. He goes, that guy gave me a problem. I walk over there. I says, hey, this guy's my brother. What's the problem with you? No sooner than I say that, Petey throws a punch right over my shoulder, hits the guy in the face. Now the guy's standing in front of me. And the whole place turned into a melee. And that was it. The clothes we bought were all ripped. We went home, all bloodied up, you know.
When did Steve Elliott tell you that he was special? Keep making stake payments.
Okay, I didn't know the game, so you're talking to a novice at the time. I didn't know shit, but I learned a lot of good stuff really quick because the caliber of the horse I had put me in the top tier with all the trainers, the drivers, kissing my ass, coming to my farm. Hey, let me drive him.
And the trainer you had at the time, Steve Elliott, he was at the top of his game then. He was.
Oh, Steve actually was basically in the middle somewhere at that time. You know, he had the horse Burning Point and Canyon Wind, and I used to go in the farm every night. I would go to see the horse 4 times a day, including at 11 o'clock. I'd have to sign my name, and the security guard was there, and Steve yelled at me. He says, you're feeding my horses. You're tying up my fucking horses. I says, I'm not feeding nothing. I says, Steve, I'm a novice, but I don't go there to feed my horses. So one day they called me up from the racing magazine. And, you know, they says, so what do you do? I hear that you go around and you go to the farm all hours of the night. I says, yeah, I go over there and I put my hands all over Burning Point because she was like a $4 million winner. Great mare, you know. And I put my hands all over her because he trained with her. And then I put them all over my horse, you know what I'm saying? And the course Canyon Wind was like a viper. You couldn't even go near him. If you put your hand in there, he would be all over you. He almost got me a few times. And, you know, it was good because I made sure no one was cast or no one was on the ground. And, you know, then I would go home and give my horses their last meal of the day. I would feed them like 6 or 7 times a day, you know, because of ulcers. We started racing the horse, first baby race, you know.
Where, at the Meadowlands?
At the Meadowlands, yep. And I snuck on and I warmed them up. I didn't have really a license or nothing. I was just an owner. And I was dying to be involved with this sport. Because I said, shit, I would love to be hands-on and drive and compete. Because I competed in everything. You know, I got my eye practically taken out as a kid playing hockey, and I loved hockey. And, you know, back in the day, we had to wear helmets, but no face masks.
So this horse now is under your mother's name?
Yeah. They were under my mother's name because I had a run-in with the commission. They said that I have a record. They says, oh, you only had a record. You got a fucking an Encyclopedia Britannica, fucking 3 inches of paperwork on you. And they abused me. They were telling me, yeah, you don't own a farm. Your grandmother owns a farm. I says, no, my great-grandmother gave me the farm, and my Aunt Tilly owns the fucking horse. And they were abusing me. So, you know, one guy said to me one day, he goes, you know, not for nothing. He goes, this is the longest situation involving getting someone a license to date in the state of New Jersey. And they were abusing me for no reason. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so, maybe the 40 arrests, that's...
Well, but they're all bullshit things, that dispositions, aftermath. I mean, I did have a felony record from a high-speed chase when I was a kid. And I got in trouble like a week before, and I was locked up for 2 weeks in Queens, and I heard the Met game. That's how close I was to Shea Stadium. I heard the Met game, and that was like exciting to me. But it's really not a joke to be locked up, you know.
So after they went through all of this, because I remember ownership of that horse changed halfway through the season.
Well, right before, here's what happened. My mother had all my horses. You know, she was the owner of the horses, okay? They were giving me a problem. So I was ready to race the horse under my mother's name, but I was going at the commission for hearing, and, you know, I just snapped out one day, and I says, hey, look, you know what? You're making fun of me. I'm a fucking asshole. Meanwhile, I'm buying horses. I'm patronizing the game. I never did nothing wrong in the fucking game. You know, I had fights. What do you fucking do? If you were in Brooklyn and you didn't have a fight, your mom should take you to a psychiatrist to see if you were fucking normal. Because anyone I know, even priests used to have fights. You know, the priest in the middle of the sermon, we're in there, you know, talking, hey, quiet, you know, yelling at you like, you know, discipline. That's all we had. But everyone had a problem in Brooklyn. I don't know anyone that really never got into some type of problem. And, you know, at the end of the day, I went to the commission, to the meeting, and, you know, I was frustrated because now I know I have a good horse and he's training down and he's in like 215 and he's ready to almost go in baby race, you know, maybe in a month. And I was all excited because it showed a lot of promise. So I said, you know what? I remember a guy, O.J. Simpson. I says, do you remember him? I said to one of the commission guys. He goes, yeah. I says, well, you know what? He had the dream team. I says, you know what? My grandmother's farm and my Aunt Tilly's horses, fuck this. I don't even want a license. I'm the fuck out of this place. I says, you know what? You abused me. You humiliated me. You put me down. I've been nothing less than a gentleman. I showed you guys respect for like 4 fucking months out of my life. I says, my time comes at a premium. I should be in Manhattan in my office right now, but I'm here getting abused by you guys. I says, if you don't want to give me the license, don't give it to me. I says, I'm coming here with 4 attorneys next week to the hearing, and then you could tell them what you want to do. Adios. And I says, hey, you too. Don't take this person along. I'm going to bring an attorney to you, to the secretary. And I left. So now I went in my car. At the time I had like, you know, a no-nonsense little Mercedes. It wasn't nothing special, you know, but I was so upset. I got in the car, I put the moonroof down, and I just like did like a turn, and I pulled up in front of them, and I said, so next week, should I bring the attorneys or should I come back? They says, no, just come back. Just come back. I says, all right, I'll just come back. So I went back, and they gave me the license.
Wow.
Now, when my horse won the first Sire Stakes race, as a 2-year-old, you know, the guys with the state police were great. They were great guys that run like the commission. They were all gentlemen, you know. They actually were rooting for me because they says, out of all the guys we did this for, you know, we're so happy, you know, that we gave you a shot because now I had a horse that swept the Sire Stakes and George, you know, Brennan, you know, had him in the final and the horse got a little rank and he broke. So he would have probably been a sub 50 pacer at 2. But, you know, shit happens. But, you know, the cops came, they says, hey, congratulations. They were friends with me and all of that. And then it was good. I never had a problem, ever. I never had a positive, nothing. You know, and I trained. I didn't want to train his license because having a horse like Autistic Fella, if you have a problem, if someone threw a cigarette ash on your horse, transdermally, it could be enemy peas in a bottle. He's a positive, and if you're the trainer, guess what? Your Autistic fella's in for the $1 million race, 1 to 9. He's disqualified. So I just used to train my own horses, which is legal. You can't train without a license for hire. Like if I trained your horses and I charged you, I'd need a license. But, you know, no big deal. So that's how that happened. So fast forward, the horse does well. He goes to his first baby race now. And he goes a back half in like 55 seconds. And he wins by like 20 lengths.
Meadowlands?
Yeah, George Brennan, I put on him. Because he's friends with the tall kid, Dwayne. So let me just stop because I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm standing out there with the horse in the sulky, and he's kind of like looking at all the sights because he never really left my farm other than to Lester's farm in Delaware, which there's no real mayhem going on. You know, there's no flags, there's no trucks, there's no water trucks. So he wasn't really broke like bomb-proof, like some of these other guys do. They take him to the track. At the facility, there's always a water truck, a harrow, you know. So, P.S., we go to the baby race, and the horse runs off. And before that, I told George Brennan, I says, George, I says, you know, this horse comes with a little bit of instructions. I know you guys don't like to hear shit like, come on, just give me the horse, give me the horse. I never met George before. It's my first time ever handing a horse off to anyone. I says, listen, you know the tall guy? Oh, I says, yeah. He goes, oh, yeah. I says, you're going to listen? Because if you don't listen, you're going to regret that you gave me a hard time. This probably is probably the best horse you're going to ever drive. That's what he told me to tell you. He goes, all right, tell me. So I says, hey, the horse had a problem. He used to cock his head in so we could get closer to the gate, like smash his chest and his shoulders against the gate. Because he was like, the horse was like a mongrel. He busted up my barn. He gave Steve a problem. He almost killed Steve a few times. He almost killed me a few times. He busted like 5 stalls in 2 weeks.
Did anybody ever mention the geldom at that point?
Oh, absolutely.
You just refused.
I refused, yes, because people were actually calling me derogatory names that I don't know what I'm talking about. And I really didn't know everything about the game, but I knew I had a good horse. And I always try to educate myself. Like if I have a question and I don't know it, I'll ask you. Hey, Larry, do you know this? Do you know that? Do you know someone that knows? Help me out, you know. And I'll try to get the right answer from a couple of guys, and then...
What was your reason for not wanting a geldom?
Because I didn't think that it was going to do him any good, and I wanted to have a stallion, like a breeding horse at the end of the day, because it would have bothered me forever. If I cut the horse and now he's a gelding, some of them go backwards. Some of them, you fix them and they don't do shit anymore. You know, and to me, I figured out, let's leave well enough alone. So someone talked to me, says, the vet, you know, we could work something out with the vet. And because he was a bad actor. The horse was really a dangerous horse. He had his own spot at the Meadowlands, 12-foot, you know, wall on both sides of him, so he couldn't jump up. When he was in the detention barn, he used to be on his hind legs looking in all the stalls, had all this competition. He was like a real, like, alpha horse. And, you know, dangerous, very dangerous.
And you kind of hate to... I understand your sister's having the same problem now with her horse. She called me up. And there's a big difference between, in my opinion anyway, cutting a horse because he's sticks his toes in or wheels around or pins his ears and won't try. That's one reason for cutting a horse. And the other reason is... because he's too spirited, wants a race, wants to go, wants to challenge everybody, and that's probably not a good reason, because there's a lot of world champions that Neville Leader, Neville Pride, and I could name probably 10, 15 of them that were the same way, and had they cut them, maybe they wouldn't have been as good, and they wouldn't have been a stallion. So you obviously made the right choice.
But my horse never did nothing wrong on the track. He just was a bad actor.
And that
once he got in the race, he would pull himself out of the hole and go. And, you know, he wasn't rateable at first. And this was all because of me. I was a novice.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't have an ego. I mean, all of us have egos.
Yeah,
but
them problems, they were bullshit problems as reasons to castrate a horse.
Right.
So I agree.
Well, Dina's the other day planted him in.
Yeah,
and he looked nifty in the eyes, and he planted him in, and he went off stride, and he said, like, fuck you. And, you know, you got to remember, you're a driver. I used to go in, like, racing, you know, mock racing miles and, you know, good racing miles training, you know, at my farm, and, you know, we'd go around and, you know, all of that other shit. But, you know, if you got a horse that gets stupid and plants them
when
in,
your sister told me that's the reason, I says there has to be a reason why Nifty
it was a
told
good
you to
reason.
And she says he planted his feet, and he says he gave him a second chance. He did it again.
Yeah.
I says cut him immediately, and so that's a good reason to cut him.
Well, that's what I told her. I says put the horse with him. The guy's Hall of Fame trainer.
Yeah.
Great guy, my friend, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, no one that's a friend of mine is going to lead me down the wrong path.
Yeah.
And, you know, ever since he's there, you know, he says, Joe, it's a positive thing. Because Dina got nervous.
I know.
He's not going to be the same.
She called me up right away, I know.
But he is going to be the same, because now he's going to be safe. But if you keep going and trying, like a horse jumps a hose, if the hose is there every day, he's going to jump the hose. Now if you take him to the race and there's a shadow, he's going to jump the shadow and take everyone out. And, you know, there's reasons to do it and not. Hey, look, a lot of guys, they want to have fucking half-dead horses that don't rear up. I had a horse miff the boat. They used to draw straws every week and bet on me getting killed by this horse. Because it took me, Cat, the two Fusco brothers, may they rest in peace, Carmine and Vinny, and another guy, and a blindfold over the horse to get him on the track. He'd rear up, he'd hit the sign. It was a mayhem. But then when we caught him, he became a little dead.
Yeah.
And
I have to tell these people that are listening that are not horse people, getting just about every top driver that drives a lot has broken just about every bone in their body at least once. Your guy, Catello Manzi, John Campbell, all of these guys, they got rods and pins and everything holding their whole body together. When you get hit with a horse in a horse accident, they're going like 35 miles an hour. And when that foot comes and hits you, if it should ever hit you in the helmet, like it did this kid in Delaware at Dover Downs, his face was on the other side of his head. The horse hit him right in the head. It's like laying down on the ground and some guy with a sledgehammer coming down on you. That's exactly what it's like. That's why they try to improve these helmets. And training now that they're going this fast, training now and rigging is so important to give these guys that are risking their life every day a safe horse to drive. And just like Nifty said, if this horse, if he's not castrated and break him out of this habit, he's going to wind up killing somebody. So anyway, let's go on with your horse.
Okay, so we I told Georgie, you know, look, you're going to listen, do this, do that. He looks in, he's rank, he's going to be running over the driver in front of him. You know, just try to keep him in the hole for a while. And make sure you have racing room because he's very fast horse. He goes, all right, give me him. I said, yeah, good luck. So sure enough, he did a great job. He was sitting behind Michael a chance, and his teeth, you could see the horse's teeth banging off of Mike's helmet the whole way, and he was trying to pull himself out, and Georgie kept him in to the half. Then he pulled him out, and he just went and looped around the turn. And then coming for home, he was on top by like 30.
What'd George say after?
He goes, hey, you were right. He was all excited. He's like, oh, shit, this horse is great. Who's training him? Steve? Tell Steve. I'm playing with guys. He says, look, do me a favor. You want to ride him next week? Yeah. See you later. Done. So he did, you know, but the phone started ringing. The phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Hello. Oh, yeah. Is that your horse? I says, what horse? The one, autistic fella. I says, yeah. He goes, I'll give you $400,000 for him right now. I says, look, I'm not interested. I says, you could probably buy my wife and kids for $400,000. I said, I appreciate that you like the horse. I says, this is what I bought him for, and now I think I got a good one. He goes, I says, come and watch him race. Next, another guy, I'll give you $500,000 for him. I had like 10 offers for the horse right on the spot. But all the money in the world, if they offered me $1 billion for him, I wouldn't have took it.
I believe that.
Because to feel the way I did, like my father was with me when we won the big race, and there was no feeling in the world like it. I says, that's like you substituting for Joe Torre in Game 7 of the World Series and winning. He tried to steal my trophy, my father, and everything. I told the cop was in the winner's circle. I says, officer, do me a favor. Get this who's fucking guy over here? You know, I used to kid with my father, and he laughed. He had a sense of humor like that. Not in a disrespectful way, you know. But he was so happy that night, like even him. Like, it's something that people don't realize, even though it's a horse. Like, I saw my horse with his ears pinned in the stretch of that race, and I knew he was doing his job. And to me, like, here's an animal, you know, and sometimes I look at people and I'm like, shit, you know, look at this animal doing his job. And us people, sometimes we can't do our job.
Okay,
you know?
Now let's skip ahead. Now we entered him in the Meadowlands Pace. What was the purse, $1 million, $1.5 million?
Yeah, it was $1 million.
$1 million. 10 horses in the race. What made this? When did you get rid of? When did you switch drivers from Brennan to Manzi?
Well,
'Cause I know
Brennan
Manzi-
drove all his races as a 2-year-old. So we won 5, and then Steve says, this horse is very, growthy and immature. So, it's hard for me to turn him out because now I got a winning horse after I'm finishing 8th, justifying finishing 8th and going in 55-1 rather than 55-4. So I'm looking at doing well that I went 3/5 of a second faster this week to saying now I got to turn my good horse out that just won 3 big stakes races, So anyway, one of my, there's a horse called He's Personal, right? This was something I had to tell you. He was Autistic's training partner in Delaware. And I was told my horse used to leave him at the 3/4 pole because my horse had like a good pop, a 25, 26 second last quarter in him. And this horse won the historic in 151, okay, at the Meadowlands. I didn't have my horse staked because I didn't know how to stake like anyone else. No one really helped me. I just put him in all the late closes, and he made that $1,980,000 that year as a 3-year-old by...
$1,900,000?
No, he made it 980. He made 980 grand that year, and it was all the hard way. I supplemented him to the Breeders' Crown and all kinds of other shit because I just didn't know what I was doing.
Early on, nobody told. Why don't you get a stake
people
service?
tried to help me, but I didn't know. I didn't think I was going to get a horse like that. So that's why I tell Dina and Don, I'm like, yo, stake the horse, treat him like a world champion. If you don't put him in them events, you really have something that's going to race for 20 grand.
Yeah, but
It's
in the
a gambling
meantime, it's
business.
probably 60, 70,000 a year.
Yeah, but you know what? If he turns out to be good and you didn't pay it, you're not going to be too happy.
Okay, let's get to the Meadowlands Pace.
All right. So, all right. You want to go right into that? Just start there at the Meadowlands
No,
Pace?
start wherever you want.
All right. Well, I'll give you the 3rd year. All right. He had a little problem.
His 3-year-old, right? His
Yeah.
3-year-old year.
So, at the end
Did
of
you
the
ever did you ever turn him out?
yeah,
as a
he was
2-year-old?
turned out and he gained 200 pounds. I brought him back to Steve. He didn't even realize who he was. He says, get my Meadowlands Pace horse in here as a 2-year-old. I says, look, man, I says, I don't have that kind of money. I says, he goes, you better make a stakes payment, so get him out of my bond. I say, go easy, I told him. I says, it's you and I to the end. I says, this horse ain't going nowhere, and you're going to do your job and honor the promises you made me. I says, I'll put him in. I said, I'm going to give you a little incentive. I says, if I stake this horse to that pace, you're telling me you're going to win the race, because he keeps calling him his Meadowlands Pace horse. So I'm calling him at night, driving him nuts. I said, I'll give you $50,000 the day after he crosses the wire if that horse wins the Meadowlands Pace, because he's pushing me now to do it. And the girl, Rachel, that was his groom, she was great. The horse did anything for her, She made me pay it, because I said, that's crazy, come on. I didn't realize.
They're all lined up in behind the gate, and here they come. And they're off and took Hanover from the outside, gets the first call. Long shot, my boy David is put into play early. Up close from the rail is Perfect Union, who looks to settle into 3rd. Artistic Fella floats away between horses. Western Ace is 3 wide early. Shark Gesture is 6th on the inside. Real Mean Art is caught a bit wide on the turn. Total Truth is lining up to follow Western Ace for Team Teague. Further back racing in 9th is Armbro Deuce, and Dave Panlone trails the field, and Dave Miller makes a move with Perfect Union on the outside. Up and after took Hanover. They hit the quarter in 26-3, and Artistic Fella follows the move of Perfect Union. So Perfect Union is about to clear the lead. Pressure coming, though, as the favorite Artistic Fella is right alongside in second. Took Hanover, who left the gate well, is now third. Racing in fourth is My Boy David. Shark Gesture is fifth, and Artistic Fella takes the lead before the half-mile marker. Western Ace is sixth on the outside. Total Truth is following him. Armbro Deuce is eighth on the outside. Then it's Real Mean Art, the half in 53-1. And 10th and trailing is Dave Panlone and Artistic Fella and the Catman, a length in front as they wheel onto the far turn. Perfect Union is second, and Campbell takes a shot with Took Hanover, who's coming on the outside. And Took Hanover is up and after Artistic Fella, just half a length away as they near the three-quarter marker. Artistic Fella still in front on the inside. Took Hanover right at his throat on the outside second. Perfect Union has dropped back a bit in third. Total Truth trying to kick on three deep on the outside. Three quarters in 1:21-3. It's Artistic Fella at the top of the stretch who leads it. Took Hanover is still 2 lengths away on the outside. Armbro Deuce in the middle of the racetrack is coming. Perfect Union there. My Boy David angles out. Artistic Fella still there. Armbro Deuce charging hard with My Boy David. Artistic Fella. Armbro Deuce. My Boy David. Artistic Fella wins the Meadowlands Pace in a masterpiece. 1:48-4. Owned by Joe Alborano, who's from New Egypt, New Jersey, Steve Elliott, and Cat Manzi. So the favorite does it. Artistic Fella takes the 30th edition of the Meadowlands Pace. Bob Hollywood Hayden will have winner's circle reaction a bit later on as the celebration begins. Joe Alborano and his family and friends, about 500 strong, hoping to get into the winner's circle ceremonies here as Artistic Fella takes the 2006 Pace. Opted off and got back on, Artistic Fella, and he has just won his first Meadowlands Pace, snapping an 0-for-9 streak for the Catman. A Pacific Fella out of an Arts Place mare, Joe Alborano. One of the little guys in the sport, enjoying probably his biggest thrill, not only in the sport, but in his life and his career as well. As Artistic Fella gets the job done as the favorite, 30th edition of the Pace, 1:48 4/5. Owner Joe Alborano and caretaker Rachel Vincent standing by Artistic Fella as the winner's circle ceremonies continue.
Sure enough, he crosses the wire first. I bring him the 50,000 the next morning. He fell off his chair on the floor, you know. But people says no one even that were billionaires ever did something like that for their trainers.
Yeah.
You know, but the point that I was saying before, winning an event like that is such a special thing. It's like
What
hard
did
to
Teller
explain.
say?
He was beside himself. He was, you know, he wanted to win that race. He had a few shots, and I kind of laughed at him because at freehold sometimes one day he picked off my horse to drive for one of his buddies. And he goes, me and him grew up together and all of this other shit. I says, yeah, but he'd give you the Meadowlands Pace drive. So I rigged my horse. I had this mare. She was a very good mare. She was timed in like 51 at freehold one day, 51 in a piece. So I had like the rail, and I had Steve Smith on the mare, and Cat was on the other guy's horse, Tony Menino. And I put the cheetah hood on her, I put plugs in her ears, I got her all like raring to go. And I think I overdid it a little bit because she came out of there like a house on fire, and she almost went ass over end right out of the gate. But she was no good that day. You know, I think she got all excited and left her game in the paddock. But he used to drive her good and do good for me with that, you know. But it's competitiveness that I have. I wanted to win, you know.
I want to say this because I'm going to get a lot of phone calls, as I did last time when I played the video of Wildwood Jeb winning the Cane Pace. And Jimmy Marone, and I must have got 30 or 40 calls saying, "Why don't you have Jimmy Marone come on the show?" And I just want the people to know that all of these guys that I raced with through the years, Catello Manzi, John, every one of them. In fact, all their pictures are in my book. I was invited to the reunion they had at the Meadowlands, and I was invited, and I took pictures with every one of them. They're all my good friends and close friends, and they all understand the road that I took and why I took it, and they're all going to ask me why Catello Manzi is not here to talk about this great horse, and probably one of the highlights in his whole career, which was a Hall of Famer career, and a great guy. I raced with his cousins, his grandfather, his father. I raced with all of them, and he's a good kid. He's a great kid and a great driver and one of the hardest workers in the horse business. But these guys cannot come on my podcast. You have, because of my reputation, because of what I did in the horse business, regardless the reason I did it to save my life. But regardless of that, I did what I did, and I would never ask these guys to come on and a Hall of Famer to come on my show of a guy that fixed more races than anybody in the history of horse racing. I can't do it, and I wish I could, but I just can't ask them to come on. I would never put them in that kind of spot. These are all Hall of Famer guys that had absolutely nothing to do with anything that I did in the 70s. Half of them weren't even driving back then. But they're all good guys, and that's the reason Catello Manzi's not here. But he sent word. He said hello. He told me how great the horse was and everything, and that's it. So I just want to get that out of the way so nobody has to ask, why don't you have Catello on? I cannot have Catello on. I cannot have O'Donnell or Manzi or anybody. I can't have them on because of the reputation that I have, and they're all Hall of Famers. So that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah, that cat did say, though, a lot of good things about the horse, and, you know, he said he would be watching, you know, when it comes out. But the guy did do a great job with my horse. He always brought the horse back. He always had good reports to say, and the guy's a gentleman. You know, I think he was one of the best, and I even told Steve, I says, he drives my horse.
In my opinion, all the guys that we talk about, Brennan, all of them. I know Georgie since he's a little kid. They're all top drivers,
right.
But they all have their. In my opinion, probably the two guys that would Catello Manzi was probably the right fit for that horse. In my opinion, not that. Any other top drivers probably do the same thing, but in my opinion, his demeanor was perfect for that horse. Now, of course, you know we're going to show the Meadowlands Pace. That will be on this podcast, along with maybe some of his stretch drives. I think there were 26 stretch drives.
Yeah, that's a nice program. It's on. It's on YouTube too.
We're going to edit all of that into this, and we're going to kind of end this podcast here with them races, and then you're going to come back again, because if we start talking about what happened after the Meadowlands Pace, it's going to be another 2 hours. So we're going to end it here if it's okay with you.
Yeah, I'll come down and talk.
So we'll do this again. We'll end with the Meadowlands Pace, and we're going to see if we can't get together with the 26 stretch drives that.
Yeah, it's a promo for his breeding career, and it really shows you, you know. Like one race was the Berries Creek. He got checked 4 times in the stretch. Ronnie Pierce drove him. And he was running in so bad. And Ronnie grabbed him 3 times, or he would have sideswiped somebody. And his last quarter was 25-3.
Wow.
So imagine 25-3 getting checked 3 times. I mean, look, the horse.
That was in 2006, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
But the thing is the horse always was on the front end. And, you know, even in the Sire Stakes final at 3, he made a skip at it at 10-hole, and he regained and he won the race in a track record performance. But my horse was in the books every week pretty much, you know, and he earned it. You know, I mean, if somebody of higher stature owned that horse or a premier farm owned that horse, they would have had him as God. But there was no one ever to take him down the road. Steve thought he could go in 45. That's how fast he was. I mean, Steve, I used to go and watch him at the observation stands at Show Place. And I'd have a clock, and a guy next to me had a clock. And all by himself, he just went in 51. And the last quarter was in 25, I'm telling the other guy. He goes, yeah, I got that too. So I go to Steve, I'm like, what the fuck you doing? I mean, what do you think? You driving a fighter pilot here, a fighter jet? I says, leave. He laughs. He goes, your clock's wrong. He goes, I came a last quarter in 27. Like fucking hell, I told him. He'd laugh and walk away. All alone, no company, nothing. The horse, if you lay a whip on him, he'd get angry. You know, sometimes he'd come back with a stripe or two on him. I says, hey, don't put the fucking whip on the horse. He does his job. Show him the whip, that's it. Because he used to wear the slots, the cheetah hood. Then Steve gave me a coronary once in one of the big races. He won. He put some Swedish bridle on it with all kinds of gadgets. In the stretch, he pulled the thing back, and the thing went back. Yeah. And the horse, you know, that was his world record when he was like the fastest horse in the game that day.
Well,
but Steve says, see, no guts, no glory. I said, look, I'm not about changing shit the day of the game. I says, you know, I like to test.
Not only that, but
it
I
was
got
a
in
great
trouble
move.
a couple of times because you change equipment after a horse wins. When a horse wins, you better have the same equipment on next week.
Yeah.
Because if he should ever get beat with equipment change, you got a problem. Anyway,
yeah.
we're going to end this thing now.
Yeah.
You're going to come back again, and I want to thank you for driving a long way to come here.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. I appreciate it.
You're a unique person who had a unique horse, and good for you. And I'll see you next week, guys.
Thank you.
Artistic Fella rides the rail to win. Artistic Fella wins the Berries Kriegs. It'll be 10 straight for the Meadowlands Pace winner. Artistic Fella wins the Meadowlands Pace in a masterpiece.
A double world champion, $2.6 million in earnings, Meadowlands Pace and Breeders' Crown champion, one of the greatest paces in history. This is Artistic Fella. A winner of 26 races and $2.6 million in his illustrious career, Artistic Fella was a fierce competitor, winning an amazing 12 races under 150, with 7 of these wins from 148 to 148.4. A multiple stakes winner at 2, Artistic Fella returned as a 3-year-old to take the racing world by storm. He set a modern-day record, winning a remarkable 10 consecutive stakes races at the Meadowlands, earning over $940,000 that season.
Artistic Fella surging up on the outside to the lead. It's Artistic Fella sweeping up on the outside.
It's Artistic Fella in a romp. Artistic Fella in 1:49.1. That's a New Jersey Sire Stakes record. But it's Artistic Fella, and the Catman is shooting the works with him. Real Mean Art coming to him, but Artistic Fella makes it 8 in a row.
Artistic Fella striding to the line in the homes. It'll be 10 straight for the Meadowlands Pace winner.
Artistic Fella's dominance in the 3-year-old ranks was apparent in the $1 million Meadowlands Pace with this electrifying performance.
3/4 in 1:21.3. It's Artistic Fella at the top of the stretch who leads it. Took Hanover is still 2 lengths away on the outside. Armbro Deuce in the middle of the racetrack is coming. Perfect Union there. My Boy David angles out. Artistic Fella still there. Armbro Deuce charging hard with My Boy David. Artistic Fella. Armbro Deuce. My Boy David. Artistic Fella wins the Meadowlands Pace in a masterpiece. 1:48.4.
Returning at 4 to bank $675,000, Artistic Fella showed maturity beyond his years when he defeated the sport's best older horses in the Classic Series and the Dan Patch.
Moving up on the far outside with late pace comes My Boy David, but it's all Artistic Fella. He is coasting to victory in Artistic Fella, and Cat Manzi will hit the wire.
Artistic Fella's most memorable victory that season was in the $500,000 Breeders' Crown Final, accomplished at the expense of Mr. Big, Leesmara and Boulder Creek.
And they're still having some work to do to catch up to Artistic Fella. Mr. Big is only to the wheel. From off-cover, Liz Mara trying to fire, but all Sears is getting is spinning wheels. Deep stretch, it's Artistic Fella. Mr. Big on the outside trying to live and tell about a first over trip. It's been an adventurous trip, and Artistic Fella takes them down the road in the Breeders' Crown Open Pace. He looked to hold them off in 1:49 and 2/5.
In another banner season at age 5, racing against one of the deepest crops of seasoned performers in history, Artistic Fella earned a further $937,000 in this, his final year of racing. He became the world's fastest pacer at a mile over a 5/8 mile track in this Franklin Memorial in 1:48 neat, outclassing both Mr. Big and Mr. Feelgood in this sensational world record.
And Artistic Fella opens up by 4. It's Artistic Fella with Mr. Big in the center of the track, Mr. Feelgood toward the inside, but it's Artistic Fella in the Ben Franklin. Artistic Fella 148! Artistic Fella from Mr. Big.
Artistic Fella's second world title came that season in the Classic Series final, where he covered the 1,710 metre distance in a 1:56.1, a world record mile rate of 1:49.3.
Into the stretch of the Pacing Classic here in Artistic Fella, accelerating away. Rebumped Western Shore. Artistic Fella, Mr. Feelgood's all out. Trapped is Total Truth. Up on the outside comes Western Ace, and between them, Palone Ranger. As they head down to the wire, it's Artistic Fella in the Pacing Classic. Artistic Fella.
Artistic Fella, a crowd favourite everywhere he raced, retired after his 5-year-old season and was honoured at the Meadowlands with special ceremonies held in the winner's circle. This great champion will be remembered as one of the best racehorses to ever look through a bridle. As you can see, Artistic Fella is a very handsome dark bay stallion, standing 16 hands with flawless conformation and manners. Bred to full books in both North America and Australia, Artistic Fella's first foals are receiving rave reviews. They are tall, athletic, sensible individuals with excellent size. Artistic Fella was one of North America's most exciting racehorses of the last decade. We look forward to his colts and fillies carrying on his world champion traditions.